What's going on, everyone? Welcome into another edition of Titans Today by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, breaking down some trade rumors, some buzz on the streets revolving around your Tennessee Titans. Now, let's get started with a Devin White potential trade. So, ESPN had a really interesting article go out a couple of days ago, and they had some best team fits for players that might get traded. And for Devin White, they selected the Tennessee Titans. Now, Devin White is entering the final year of his contract, and he's not coming off a great season, at least in PFF's opinion. They ranked him as the 74th best linebacker out of 81 qualifying players. So, bottom 7 linebacker in all of the NFL last season. Now, this is what Matt Bowen from ESPN had to say. White, who requested a trade in April, didn't play his best football in 2022, but his downhill acceleration and pursuit range would fit in Tennessee. Paired with free agent addition Azeez Al-Shaari, the Titans would have 2 stacked linebackers with the traits to track the ball in the run game, pressure, and roam the second level in passing situations. The Titans have some salary cap issues. White would want a new contract from the team that trades for him, but they could figure out a way to give him a deal. Unpopular opinion, does Tennessee need a linebacker? Maybe. But they've got 2 good ones in Monty and Azeez Al-Shaari. And I don't know if this team is desperate to add another linebacker, right? When you look at the PFF ranks from 2022, Azeez Al-Shaari ranked 18th out of 81. Monty, 43 out of 81. And then you've got Devin White leading the back of the pack with 74 out of 81, right? So for that reason, I'm not sure if this team is dying to trade for a linebacker that might not even be better than the 2 starters they currently have in Nashville. Devin White, through 4 seasons, statistically looks great. He had 9 sacks as an off-ball linebacker in 2020. Last year, 5.5 sacks and 8 tackles for loss. The stats all look great, right? It passes sort of the numbers test, but a lot of those tackles, there are tackles that he is having to make because he got beaten coverage and he's chasing down a running back or a tight end from behind. So I think if you ask enough GMs around the NFL and you talk to people within the league, Devin White might be one of those players where the numbers make a lot of sense, but teams aren't super high on him. And that's sort of the trend for a lot of linebackers this day and age. Now, this is the pinned comment on today's video. Should the Titans trade for Devin White? If YouTube sticks an ad break when I'm done talking, scroll on down while that ad plays and give me a Y for yes or N for no. Devin White, like I said, I think is shaping up to be the next overpaid off-ball linebacker, right? There are a lot of linebackers who, for whatever reason, like fans, myself included, it all looks good on paper, but when it comes to Sunday and between the lines, they don't really live up to the payday. Myles Jack is probably the most recent example of this. Joe Schobert was the NFL leading tackler not long ago, and then he was out of the league like 3 years later. Linebackers can have a very, very quick fall. Now, when you look at the highest paid linebackers in football, and this is where Devin White wants to move up on the list, he's not going to get Roquan Smith money, who just got $20 million a season. He's not getting Shaq Leonard money. But he might ask, and he may very well get somewhere between number 5 through 3, right? He might get $17 or $18 million a season because he's got the sack production, right? He has the ability to get after the quarterback. So I think Tennessee, if they were really gung-ho on this, they could get it done. When you look at the Titans' cap space in 2024, they've got the 5th most in the NFL, $80.4 million. So if they want to extend him, they have future money to pay him. Now, as for this season, they would have to pick up his 5th-year option, which is entirely guaranteed, and they'd have to move some money around, but the NFL cap is a myth. Like, it could get done if Tennessee was really, heart set on doing so. What does a trade look like for Devin White? Geez, I don't know. I mean, your guess could be better than mine. I think it's a 2nd-rounder and a day 3 pick swap, right? Where Tennessee gets Devin White and a 4th, and Tampa Bay gets a 2nd and a 6th. So to kind of offset giving up a 2nd-rounder, Tampa Bay throws a 4th over to Nashville, but they also get a 6th round back. That's kind of my best stab at it, but if Devin White does get traded, I'd be very curious to see what it looks like. If Carthon thinks this team is still a contending team in the AFC, then sure, I can see the logic in wanting to add a playmaking linebacker who makes this defense better, I think. But even saying that, the PFF grades say otherwise, and I don't think you should just live and die by PFF. I think they're a good metric, but I think there is something to Devin White might be benefiting a lot from having a great defense around him in Tampa Bay. Would be curious to see how that holds with a change and a new scenery in Tennessee. So would you do this trade? Trade or pass? For me, I'm leaning much more towards pass, right? I like the linebacker unit they have in Monty Rice and Azeez Al-Shaari, and I'm not interested in giving Devin White top 5 linebacker money and giving up a second-round pick when I think you've got 2 good starting inside linebackers that maybe Devin White will end up being better than both of them, but will he be so much better that you want to give up $20 or $18 million a season and a second-round pick? That, I don't think so. Now, coming up next on the show, we're going to talk about a different trade, this time someone going out from Tennessee, and that is Kevi Byard. So we're going to talk about him potentially being on the trade block. Now, before we get to all of that, we are having a sub battle right now with our Texans channel here at Chat Sports. So our AFC South rival here within the walls of Chat Sports, both teams starting from 0. It's a brand new week on Monday. And let's beat Will Scott and Texans today in subscribers. Hit that sub button down below if you want to sweep Houston in 2023. So Kevi Byard was included from a Bleacher Report article for trade candidates for all 32 teams. Now, if you remember, the Titans asked Byard to take a pay cut earlier this offseason, and he opted not to take that. I thought that might lead to a post-June 1st release. Ultimately, that was not the case. Now, he is getting up in the age column. He's going to turn 30 during training camp, and we know how NFL GMs view players on the wrong side of 30. Christopher Knox from Bleacher Report wrote this. However, the Titans should actively try moving safety Kevi Byard. Tennessee asked the 2-time first-team All-Pro to take a pay cut earlier this offseason, and he refused. Byard then skipped voluntary workouts, according to Nick Suss of the Tennessean. If you can get a good offer for Byard, I think you have to consider it at least, right? I don't think you just hang up the phone the moment you get the call that a team is interested in Byard, since you clearly are looking for somewhat ways out of his contract. If you're asking him to take a pay cut, and I mean, good for him for saying no. He's a 2-time first-team All-Pro. He shouldn't be bending over backwards to help a team out when he's been the #1 player on this defense in a lot of ways the last couple of seasons. Now, before we get to the rest of the Kevi Byard segment of today's show, today's sponsor, BetUS, has an awesome deal for Titans fans. When you go to chatsports.com/bet and you use promo code CHAT125, they're going to give you guys a 125% deposit bonus. If you want to put some money down on, say, Game 3 of the NBA Finals, I'm riding with the Nuggets. I just don't see a world where the 8-seed Heat lead the 1-seed Nuggets 2-1 in the Finals. Give me Denver -2.5. You can ride with me, you can fade me, but do it all at chatsports.com/bet. Promo code CHAT125. Byard, like I mentioned, has been one of the league's best safeties. I mean, 9 interceptions in just the last 2 years alone. Think about how many great players out there don't even get to 9 interceptions over 4 or 5 seasons. He has been one of the best ball-hawking safeties in the NFL, and I am not ecstatic about the idea of moving on from Kevi Byard, but I can understand a world where that is a decision that is made, because when you look at the financial side of things here, now that we're after June 1, there are $14 million in cap savings to be had, and for a team that might be resetting a little bit, or, Ross Geller pivoting at the very least, $14 million can be pretty tempting to a first-year GM so they can go get their guys next year in free agency. Pretty little dead money that's spread over the next 2 seasons. Now, a base salary of $13 million, that's what a team would be taking on if they were to trade for Kevi Byard, but a lot of times you see teams eat the salary to facilitate a trade to go through. Byard, over the next 2 seasons, he's got pretty big cap hits, $19 million in 2023, and in 2024, $17.8 million. So I wouldn't be shocked if Carthon is not dying to pay an older safety that's not one of his guys, but he's still a great player. All this money, nearly $40 million in cap hit over the next 2 seasons, if he can get some picks and kind of reshuffle the deck a little bit here. So I guess the big question is, does Tennessee truly does Random Mike come a little closer to the camera? Do you guys really expect to compete in 2023, right? And by compete, I mean make the postseason and expect to win postseason games. Or are you thinking quietly, hey, we've got a lot of guys who are sort of on their way out of town in Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry. Let's just put together a solid year for the fans and be, contending games, be competitive. But in our deep heart of hearts, no, we don't expect this team to be making a lot of noise. If you are planning on the latter and resetting a little bit, I think you should explore the idea of trading away players that if you plan on moving on from at the end of this season, with the exception of Derrick Henry, because he's just that important and that big of a franchise icon, yeah, why not pick up the phone and see what's going on out there? So if I had to pick a trade destination for Byard, what about the Bengals? They lost not one, but two starting safeties in free agency. They replenished in the draft, but if they want to win a Super Bowl, they know it's not going to take rookies to take down Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. And Kevin Byard would do a pretty good job of slowing down those two elite quarterbacks. So I've got Tennessee probably receiving more than what's actually going to happen, but for shits and giggles, why not? A fourth and a fifth, a future fifth coming over to Nashville for Kevin Byard. I mean, would you do this trade if you were Rand Carthon? Let me know in the comment section. Accept or decline. A for accept, D for decline. For me, it's tough because he's just been such a great player, not just for Tennessee, but he has been in the Volunteer State for almost a decade now, going back to his days at MTSU. So he's a fan favorite. It's tough to move on, but if Rand thinks his time is nearing an end after 2023, maybe you try to get some decent draft capital, not just a 7th-round pick, but a 4th-round pick and a 5th when you already traded away your 3rd to move up in this past draft. Could go a long way for Tennessee if they're trying to reset in 2024. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and tuning in. If you have not subscribed, I politely ask you to go ahead and do so. If we get some more subscribers here at the channel, we can get some more content out to you guys.